If you are walking the twin flame path as the divine feminine, there comes a moment that feels less like awakening and more like emotional freefall. You look around your life and barely recognize it anymore. Relationships that once felt stable have dissolved. Financial security feels fragile or completely gone. Support systems that used to hold you upright have quietly disappeared. You are left carrying a depth of grief and soul-level pain that words cannot fully express. And then there is the question that hurts the most. Why does it seem like I am losing everything while my divine masculine is losing nothing? From the outside, he appears untouched, still employed, still partnered, still moving through life with structure, routine, and even moments of visible happiness. Social media paints a picture of ease and normalcy, while your inner world feels like rubble. If this connection is truly a mirror, the imbalance feels not just confusing but cruel. It makes you question your worth, your sanity, and even the truth of the journey itself. In this video, we are going to dismantle the most painful misunderstanding of the twin flame journey. The belief that visible suffering equals spiritual failure, and visible stability equals spiritual success. As both a psychologist and a spiritual guide, I want to help you understand what is actually happening beneath the surface of this dynamic, beyond appearances, beyond comparison, beyond the stories social media tells. You will learn why the divine feminine often experiences collapse first, why her world seems to break apart while the divine masculine's remains intact, and why this is not evidence that the journey is unfair or unbalanced. We will explore the psychological and energetic mechanics of mirroring, avoidance, and delayed awakening, and why the pain you are carrying is not random punishment but purposeful initiation. This is not about romanticizing suffering. It is about naming it accurately so it no longer controls you. By the end of this video, you will no longer see your devastation as weakness or rejection. You will understand why your breakdown is not a sign that you are behind, but a sign that you are ahead. You will recognize that what looks like stability on the divine masculine side is often emotional suppression, spiritual postponement, and unconscious resistance, while your pain is the doorway through which real transformation begins. This perspective will not erase the grief overnight, but it will give it meaning. And meaning changes everything. It restores dignity to your experience. It softens self-blame. It replaces comparison with clarity. Most importantly, it will help you reclaim trust in yourself and in the intelligence of the journey you are walking. If you have ever felt abandoned by the mirror, misunderstood by the process, or ashamed of how deeply this has affected you, this video is not here to minimize your pain. It is here to explain it so you can finally stop questioning your worth and start understanding your power. Stay with me until the end. What you are about to hear may be the missing piece that helps your shattered mirror finally make sense. Section 1. The divine feminine awakens first. The absolute and often misunderstood truth of the twin flame journey is this: the divine feminine awakens first. This is not a matter of preference, strength, or spiritual superiority. It is a structural reality of how shared soul consciousness activates. The divine feminine is the first to feel the rupture because she is the first to open. She is the one who steps into the fire without knowing there is a name for it. She is the one whose inner world begins to crack, fragment, and ultimately collapse under the weight of a truth that can no longer be suppressed. Her awakening is not soft, linear, or comforting. It does not arrive as inspiration or insight alone. It arrives as devastation, as the unraveling of identities she once relied on, as the loss of emotional safety, familiar relationships, financial stability, and the sense of who she thought she was becoming. Psychologically, it resembles a profound ego death. Spiritually, it is an obliteration of the soul's old architecture. Nothing remains untouched. Every belief, attachment, and coping mechanism is brought into question and stripped down to its core. What few understand is that the divine feminine does not awaken only for herself. She carries the shared soul frequency of the twin flame connection, which means her nervous system, psyche, and spiritual body are the first to register the activation of the bond. When her awakening begins, she is not merely healing personal wounds. She is unconsciously doing the work for the entire shared soul field. This includes karmic imprints from past lifetimes, ancestral trauma embedded in lineage, genetic memory stored in the body, and unresolved emotional patterns carried by both counterparts. This is why her pain feels disproportionate to her external circumstances. She is processing layers that do not originate solely from this lifetime or this personality. Her system becomes the clearing ground where everything that must be resolved for union to exist is brought to the surface. It is exhausting, isolating, and often terrifying because it happens inwardly, beyond language, beyond validation, and beyond visible proof. Because this transformation occurs on an internal level, the destruction remains largely invisible to the outside world. While her inner universe collapses, the divine masculine's external life may appear stable, structured, and even successful. He may remain employed, partnered, socially active, and emotionally contained. From the outside, this contrast feels cruel and deeply unfair. From the inside, it feels like abandonment by fate itself. But this is not avoidance, it is not imbalance, and it is not a failure of the mirror. It is the order of the journey. The divine feminine awakens first because someone must hold the frequency before it can be recognized. Someone must descend into the depths before the other can feel the echo. Her awakening is the signal. Her collapse is the initiation. And though it feels like destruction, it is the necessary beginning of everything that follows. Before we move deeper into the next phase of this journey, pause here for a moment. Let yourself feel what this truth stirs inside you, not just intellectually, but emotionally and somatically. If you have lived this awakening, you already know how isolating it can feel to carry a collapse no one else can see. Reflection is part of integration, and sharing is part of healing. If this section resonated with you, leave a comment and share what part of your own awakening felt the most intense or confusing. And if words feel difficult right now, simply type, "I honor my awakening," in the comments. That acknowledgement alone anchors your awareness and prepares you for what comes next. Section 2. Why his world looks calm while yours falls apart. In the early stages of the twin flame journey, transformation does not move outward first. It moves inward. And this distinction is critical to understand because it explains one of the most painful paradoxes the divine feminine faces. Why her life appears to be unraveling while the divine masculine's life seems untouched. The divine feminine begins her awakening at the level of the soul, not at the level of circumstance. Her healing does not start with external changes, visible breakthroughs, or immediate relief. It begins deep within the subconscious, where identity, attachment, survival patterns, and ancestral imprints are stored. This is not a gentle process. When the soul awakens first, it does not renovate, it demolishes. It dismantles everything that was built on false alignment, even if those structures once provided comfort or security. This is why, on the surface, the divine masculine may appear fine. His life may look organized, stable, even successful by three-dimensional standards. He may remain in karmic relationships. He may keep his job, his routine, his social image. From the outside, he seems grounded in the world, functional, and unaffected. This is not because he is more evolved, more protected, or avoiding the work. It is because his phase of the journey is not yet internalized. His role at this stage is to hold stability in the external matrix, while the deeper transformation is occurring elsewhere. Meanwhile, the divine feminine experiences what feels like total collapse. Finances may fall apart without warning. Relationships dissolve, even ones that once felt safe. Friendships fade or disappear entirely. Support systems weaken. Isolation deepens. And the pain becomes so consuming, so layered, that language fails to capture it. She may try to explain it, but words cannot carry the weight of soul-level rupture. This is not ordinary loss, it is existential disintegration. It is essential to understand that this is not punishment. It is not abandonment by the universe. It is not imbalance or injustice. This is internal recalibration. The divine feminine is breaking down masks, illusions, and false internal structures that were never aligned with her true frequency. She is dismantling the internal matrix, the belief systems, survival identities, inherited fears, and ego constructs that once held her life together but no longer match her awakened state. Everything that cannot survive truth must fall. Everything that cannot coexist with authenticity must dissolve. While she does this invisible, excruciating work, the divine masculine holds the external framework. He anchors stability in the physical world until the internal purification is complete. This contrast is not a flaw in the journey. It is the design of it. What looks like imbalance is actually orchestration. What feels like collapse is preparation. And what appears calm on the outside is simply waiting for the internal work to reach the surface when roles will shift, mirrors will reverse, and the deeper awakening will finally move outward. Section 3. The feminine heals the soul while the masculine holds the matrix. The divine feminine heals first because her nature is aligned with inward transformation. Her frequency is yin, receptive, internal, spiritual, emotional, and energetic. She is designed to journey into the unseen realms of the psyche and the soul, where truth lives beneath identity, and where healing must occur before anything can change in the physical world. This is not a matter of strength or sacrifice, it is a matter of function. She is the one who feels first because she is meant to transmute first. Her awakening does not happen on the surface of life, it happens beneath it. She begins dismantling the inner architecture of separation, the beliefs that taught her to abandon herself, the patterns that normalized emotional deprivation, the survival mechanisms built around fear rather than truth. She processes betrayal not just as an event, but as a wound to trust itself. She moves through heartbreak not as loss of a person, but as the shattering of illusion. Lies, abandonment, grief, and absence are not merely remembered, they are metabolized at the level of the nervous system and the soul. In this phase, the divine feminine is not only healing her personal story, she is clearing inherited pain carried through bloodlines, ancestral contracts, and unresolved lifetimes. Trauma that was never spoken, emotions that were never allowed, attachments formed under threat rather than love. She becomes the point of convergence where unconscious patterns surface to be seen, felt, and released. This is why her pain feels disproportionate to her present circumstances. She is carrying more than one timeline within her body. While this internal purification unfolds, the divine masculine remains externally anchored. He holds position in the matrix of the physical world: work, routine, identity, structure. This does not mean he is untouched, unaffected, or immune. It means the journey has not yet turned inward for him. He is not avoiding pain, he is simply not meant to feel it yet. His awakening requires a different sequence, one that begins with external stabilization before internal collapse can occur. The twin flame journey must move inward before it can move outward. Soul before structure, consciousness before circumstance. If the external world were to collapse before the internal clearing was complete, the transformation would fracture rather than integrate. The divine feminine prepares the inner ground so that when the shift finally moves into the physical realm, it does so with clarity, truth, and permanence. What appears uneven is actually precise. What feels unbearable is purposeful. And what seems delayed is only waiting for the soul to finish what it began, so that when structure finally changes, it reflects wholeness rather than survival. Imagine a house that looks perfectly intact from the outside. The walls are painted, the windows are clean, and from the street it appears stable and livable. Yet inside, the foundation has begun to rot. Hidden beams are cracked, mold spreads behind the walls. The house cannot be saved by repainting the exterior or rearranging the furniture. It must be emptied first. Floors must be torn up. Walls must come down. From the outside, this process looks like destruction. Neighbors may wonder why a house that looked fine is now in ruins. But this demolition is not failure, it is precision. It is the only way to rebuild something that can last. This is the role of the divine feminine in the early stages of the journey. She is the one inside the house, living through the noise, the dust, the loss of what once felt familiar. Every emotional breakdown is a wall being removed. Every loss is a beam being replaced. Meanwhile, the divine masculine stands outside, holding the perimeter. From his position, the structure still looks intact. Life continues. Routine remains. He does not yet hear the cracking or see the rot, not because he is indifferent, but because his role is to maintain external stability while the internal reconstruction is underway. Only when the foundation is fully cleared can he be invited inside to feel what was once hidden. And when that moment comes, the rebuilding does not create another fragile shelter, it creates a home that will not collapse again. Section 4. The turning point when the feminine rises. There comes a precise moment on the journey when everything shifts not outwardly, but at the deepest internal level. This is the turning point created not by force, manifestation, or effort, but by completion. Once the divine feminine finishes her inner healing, a profound recalibration takes place within her entire being. She stops chasing, not because she has given up, but because there is nothing left to chase. The hunger dissolves, the yearning quiets. The constant reaching toward union outside herself fades naturally, without resistance or suppression. What once felt urgent no longer feels necessary. What once consumed her thoughts now rests peacefully within her. This happens because her inner divine feminine and inner divine masculine finally merge into wholeness. The wounded polarity collapses. The internal yin and yang emotion and structure, intuition and direction, surrender and clarity come into harmony. She is no longer fragmented. She is no longer searching for herself through another person. Completion is no longer externalized. It is embodied. This is the moment when self-love stabilizes not as a concept, but as a lived frequency. She no longer needs validation to feel worthy. She no longer needs reassurance to feel safe. Her nervous system settles. Her energy becomes grounded, coherent, and sovereign. Love stops being something she seeks and becomes something she radiates. At the same time, her divine mission activates. Purpose rises to the surface where longing once lived. Her focus shifts from waiting to creating, from monitoring to building, from emotional survival to soulful expansion. Obsession dissolves because her life finally has forward momentum. Expansion replaces fixation. Direction replaces emotional looping. And it is precisely here, at the moment she no longer needs union to feel whole, that the dynamic reverses. Not because she intended it to, not because she planned it, but because energy always responds to coherence. When the divine feminine stands complete within herself, the field reorganizes. The mirror adjusts. What once ran now feels the pull. What once seemed absent becomes aware of what has changed. This turning point is not dramatic on the outside, but it is irreversible on the inside. Once reached, she does not go back. She has crossed from longing into leadership, from pain into purpose, from seeking love into becoming it. If you've made it this far, pause for a moment and feel what just landed inside you. This part of the journey isn't meant to be rushed or consumed passively. It's meant to be recognized. Reflection is where integration happens. Ask yourself honestly, where have you stopped chasing? And where are you still learning to stand whole within yourself? Your story matters here, because every awakening looks different, and your experience may be the exact mirror someone else needs right now. If you feel called, share your journey in the comments, what shifted for you, what you released, or what you're stepping into. And if words feel heavy, simply type this affirmation to anchor the energy. I choose wholeness, and I trust what is aligning for me now. Section 5. When his world begins to collapse. There is a precise moment in this journey when the energetic balance shifts, and it is felt immediately by the divine masculine, even if he cannot yet name it. The instant the divine feminine no longer needs union in the three-dimensional world, something disconnects at the soul level. He feels it not as a thought, but as an absence. The familiar energetic pull that once anchored him disappears. The subtle reassurance of her need dissolves. What he experiences is not relief, but loss, an unexplainable emptiness that signals the end of unconscious attachment. This is the true beginning of his awakening. Unlike the divine feminine, his journey does not begin inwardly. It does not start with introspection, emotional processing, or spiritual inquiry. His awakening begins externally because his identity has been built through the external world. Structure, status, stability, and validation in the matrix have been his anchors. And when the feminine releases energetic dependence, the matrix that held him upright can no longer sustain itself. This is when his world starts to fracture. The systems he trusted begin to fail. Finances destabilize in ways that feel sudden and unfair. Careers that once provided identity or security collapse or lose meaning. Karmic relationships, especially those built on convenience, comfort, or avoidance, begin to crack under pressure. Institutions he believed in betray him. Contracts unravel, agreements dissolve. What once felt solid reveals itself as fragile. Often, the body becomes the final messenger. Health issues surface. Chronic tension, exhaustion, or unexplained physical pain may appear. The body expresses what the psyche has avoided. The pain is not punishment, it is communication. It forces presence. It demands attention. It pulls awareness out of distraction and into reality. Everything that once seemed stable begins to fall apart, not all at once, but with relentless precision. Each collapse removes another layer of illusion. Each loss strips away another external identity. This external suffering becomes unavoidable, and in that pressure, something internal finally breaks open. This is the Satori process, awakening through external pain. He does not awaken because he seeks truth. He awakens because the structures that kept him asleep no longer function. The collapse forces him inward for the first time, not out of curiosity, but necessity. When the external world can no longer hold him, he is compelled to confront the inner world he has long ignored. This phase is disorienting, humbling, and often terrifying, yet it is sacred. Because through this dismantling, awareness begins to emerge. And for the first time, the divine masculine starts to recognize that what he lost externally was never the source of his stability. It was merely a reflection of an energy he did not yet understand. His awakening does not arrive gently. It arrives through collapse, but collapse is the doorway. Section 6. 2 paths of healing. 1 shared soul. What often creates confusion on the twin flame journey is the assumption that healing must look the same for both counterparts. It does not. The divine feminine and the divine masculine heal in opposite directions, yet they are working on the same shared soul architecture. Their paths are different not because one is ahead or behind, but because each is designed to dismantle illusion from a different axis of consciousness. The divine feminine heals internally. Her work moves inward, through layers that are largely invisible to the external world. She heals through emotion, where suppressed grief, fear, and longing rise to the surface to be felt fully. She heals through spirit, as her connection to the unseen intensifies and her identity detaches from external validation. She heals through the mind, as false narratives, self-blame, and conditioned beliefs are dismantled. And she heals through the soul, where ancestral, karmic, and collective imprints are finally brought into awareness and released. Her task is to infiltrate the inner matrix, the psychological, emotional, and energetic structures that govern perception and attachment. The divine masculine heals externally. His transformation is expressed through the tangible structures of life. He heals through finances, as security and control are tested. He heals through careers, where identity and purpose are challenged. He heals through relationships, especially those built on avoidance, dependency, or distraction. He heals through institutions, systems, and agreements that once offered stability but now reveal their limitations. And often, he heals through physical health, as the body becomes the arena where unresolved tension is finally expressed. His task is to dismantle the outer matrix, the visible frameworks that once substituted for inner alignment. She dissolves illusion from within, he dismantles illusion from without. Both processes are essential. One without the other would leave the healing incomplete. The feminine clears the internal distortions that shape reality. The masculine breaks down the external structures that reinforce those distortions. Neither path is easier. Neither is more spiritual. Neither is spared from pain. Each carries its own form of initiation, loss, and revelation. They are mirrors, but not simultaneous mirrors. They are sequential reflections. What she heals internally eventually demands correction externally. What he dismantles externally forces recognition internally. The timing appears uneven, but the intelligence behind it is precise. Each phase activates the next, like a relay rather than a race. This is why comparison becomes meaningless on this path. The soul is not healing in parallel, it is healing in sequence. And through these opposing movements, the shared soul gradually returns to coherence. Not through sameness, but through balance. What feels unfair is not random. What feels unbalanced is not a mistake. Every phase of this journey has been measured, timed, and designed with precision far beyond the mind's understanding. The divine feminine does not go first because she is punished. She goes first because she carries the capacity to transmute pain into consciousness. She goes first because she awakening restructures the entire shared soul field. The divine masculine does not follow because he is weak or delayed. He follows because awakening cannot occur in dependence. It can only happen once the feminine no longer needs him to complete her. Internal healing must occur before external reality can rearrange. And when the inner world stabilizes, the outer world is forced to respond. This is why internal healing births external collapse, and why external collapse births internal awakening. What looks like loss is actually alignment correcting itself. What feels like abandonment is the soul restoring balance. If you are the divine feminine and your life feels like it has fallen apart, hear this clearly. You are not behind, you are not being punished, and you are not losing, you are leading. You are carrying the initiation that makes union possible at all. Your wholeness is the signal. Your detachment is the activation. Your peace is the permission for the mirror to finally move. Because the soul never breaks its own contract. It fulfills it through timing, through truth, and through transformation. If this message resonates with you, leave a comment below and type this affirm to anchor it into your field. I trust the divine timing of my soul. And if this helps you see your journey with clarity instead of self-blame, please like this video, share it with someone who may be walking this path silently, and continue with the next video below because What comes next is where understanding turns into liberation.